What's up, everybody? I am super excited because I have the luminary, the genius, the incredibly talented Kevin Penkin here on the channel that I've cajoled. It's been like months now. I feel like I've been like, yo, dude.
Yeah.
I'm in Japan. I'm sick. I'm somewhere else.
Something's always happening.
Well, you're busy. It's good.
There's some things going on. A little bit of travel. Yeah, Japan, Singapore as well. Went to Singapore.
Oh my God.
Awesome. So yeah, never been there before. That was really, really cool.
That's all very far from me. I definitely want to make a trip to Japan at some point. Our mutual friend Sumi is forcing me now to go. She's like, next time when you're in Japan, and I go, hold on, Sumi, I don't know when that is. When you're in Japan. Like,
yeah.
Okay, Sumi,
yeah.
right.
It's a pretty good hub like that, and yeah, Sumi's class. So you're a really good friend. So yeah.
She's awesome.
You'd enjoy Japan, man. I mean, what's not to love? There's everything you could ever want and more.
Dude, we eat a lot of sushi. And it's like, it's adequate, but we eat a lot of sushi. I also am recently getting into anime, which we'll talk about since you're, a prolific anime composer. And yeah, it's like, and I just finished up Digimon Time Stranger today, the game. And I love Digimon, and I would go to the Bandai Namco store and it would be over for me. I would just bring home.
Yeah, they've got a couple of good ones over there. So yeah, bring your credit card, make sure it's attached to Fly Miles. And
I eat some ramen, yeah, it's bad. Speaking of being busy and stuff, like, did you anticipate this is what you wanted when you started? When did you start? I know that Metroid Prime was sort of an inspirational moment for you with that kind of sound, and I've read your Wikipedia page and whatever. But like for you, like, is this what you hoped? Is this what you anticipated? Is this what you wanted?
Yeah, it was kind of it. I started wanting this. Yeah, I guess like 10, 11. Like,
Wow.
in a slightly more abstract sort of way. But, I fell in love with Nintendo really early, then fell in love with Japan, then fell in love with other media that Japan had, aka anime. Fell in love with the musicians, the composers, and yeah, it was just I was very ambitious from there, if I may say so. I was very much wanting to be part of it. As like a teenager, I was like mad keen on trying to get in on what it would feel like to be a video game composer in Japan at the time, or anime composer as well. Ironically, even though I've had this trajectory since, well, I guess kind of 10, but, even just through like the mid to late teens, I've actually never lived in Japan. Like, I've never made that jump. So I've either lived in Australia or the UK, but that's it. Those are the only two places of residence I've ever had. But I travel to Japan very, very frequently now, probably 3-4 times a year. Sometimes for fun, sometimes for not fun. But yeah, it's
different fun, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good life, challenging life. Like, it's not easy. I mean, you can talk. I'm sure we will talk about it. But like, writing music, I do genuinely envy people that say, like, you never work a day in your life if you enjoy what you do. Because I really love what I do, but I work. Like, it feels like more power to anyone who is able to see it differently. I find this job incredibly challenging, incredibly rewarding, unbelievably rewarding. There are good days and bad days for me. I'm sure everyone is the same. But yeah, I wouldn't change it for anything. I've been able to do so much because of it. I've made friends because of it. I'm meeting new friends now because of it, talking to you because of it. There's a lot of upsides to this. You get to play around on synthesizers all day, and then, that's it. Yeah, it's a good life.
What I think is so remarkable about your music, and obviously I was mentioning it to you before we talked, like, obviously I've heard like Hanazev, whatever. Yeah, I've heard the tracks from Made in Abyss. People like freak out, when you come up, or Tower of God I've heard in live streams and stuff. And what's incredible about you is that you have like modern sensibilities, but you also clearly, having listened to Bye Bye, what was it? Bye Bye Earth, clearly have like also like deep classical understanding, essentially like modern oratorio / requiem writing. It's like mind blowing to me. When did you sort of discover that you had this desire to like mix and match styles and sort of integrate all these different things? And did you have like a standard, I guess, approach to? Did you go to like conservatory? I don't know this part about your history.
No, all good, man.
That stuff.
The short answer is yes. I'm a flute player by trade.
Oh,
yeah, classical flute, but then jazz flute as well. When I was in high school, moved to composition during high school, and then kind of never looked back. Back to the Metroid Prime thing, because that was a hybrid score, it used acoustic and electronic instruments. That's where the fascination with sort of, I guess, both approaches or both, sides of the musical sort of world, sphere, so to speak. That's where that interest sort of came from. So when I was in high school, I was doing, analysis, well, forced analysis, because, exams.
Yeah,
We were doing graciously accepted force analysis on things like Bartok's Concerto for Orchestra. We would do Schubert. We would do, did we do Mozart? I can't remember, but yeah.
I imagine.
Yeah, things like Concerto for Orchestra. Going into undergrad, so I did undergrad in composition and music tech. We would study anything from Steve Reich to Stravinsky, Rite of Spring, things like that, and everything in between. The undergrad that I went to, they really kind of push forward the idea of modern music or art music, which is just totally blended. I mean, it could be full orchestra, it could be full electronics, experimental, not experimental. Well, it's pretty experimental, but there was just so much exposure to different approaches to writing music, which basically broke down a lot of barriers between electronic and acoustic. It didn't really matter. It was way more about just finding a sound quality that you actually enjoyed, and then just focusing in on that and exploring it. There was an album by two composers, Alvin Noto and Ryuichi Sakamoto, and they did piano and electronics. And that was something I was really interested in, not only because of sort of background in liking Metro Prime style sort of hybrid music, but just the way that they were able to take a really pure concept of, I wouldn't even know how to describe it aptly on camera, but I don't want to put my foot in it. It was almost very minimal tech beats with very pretty Sakamoto piano. And just that combination was just unbelievably cool. To the point where one of my good friends and I actually did almost our own kind of version of that, where I was playing piano and he was doing a lot of Max MSP programming, and we would do manipulations and improvs with each other. So coming from that experimental music background and then going into postgraduate in London, I did a master's. I'm technically a master, but whatever
that means.
Yeah, whatever the fuck that means.
I have 2 masters and a fucking artist diploma. I don't know what that is.
Mazel tov.
It's a piece of paper.
I received my MA in composition for screen. So it was almost like I was taking an undergraduate in art music or experimental music, even though it was kind of focused through a lens of wanting to be video game anime composer, then applying that to the skill set that I learned from that master's degree in London.
Right.
And so being able to try and focus some of that experimental energy, or some of that early energy, I should say, and trying to, get it to practically sit on a screen in a way. So when Made in Abyss came around, that was the first time I was able to maybe hark back to some Steve Reich, some Ava Pet influence, and be oh, I can actually use these sorts of techniques that they use and actually apply it to a score in a medium that I really want to be part of.
I was listening to it yesterday while playing Guild Wars 2, which was not very peaceful, but I was listening to I think it was the first layer or one of the tracks that deal with the layer, and there was a real electronic crunch, almost to the point where it fills out and it grows in crescendo, but it's always this sort of like this pressed engine kind of sound, you know what I mean? With the synthesizer. And
I'm taking a guess, but I have a feeling that is potentially a contrabassoon with a distorted key bass somewhere in there.
So yeah.
If I was a guessing man.
So you basically would take the instrument and then you would add a layer of distortion to it. So it's a organic instrumentation, not so much a synthetic, and then you're twisting it.
Well, I'm quite keen on texture, and so building layers of things, not to make a pun, but building layers upon layers, and then finding a new sound because of that combination of things. Yeah. Essentially, I'm describing orchestration, but that approach, but that approach using a combination of acoustic and electronic, or something like that, could be quite interesting, and normally results in some very interesting results. So a lot of the Abyss stuff, if there's a bass line, it might be double bass, bassoon or contrabassoon, and then a distorted key bass or a synthesizer, and they'll work and they'll be completely unison, and it'll just give off this really interesting texture. And especially when you go into the live recording, we've recorded Made in Abyss in a couple of locations, but the main locations, one has been Vienna, in a really, really interesting and massive room with great players. And then the second season we went to Sydney, which is another massive room, and really interesting players and really good players. And so like when you have that quality of live musician and you're putting it against a synthesizer, it again just sort of like almost doubles up on not the quality, so to speak, but like just the way that texture feels alive, but also not exactly, it's not just the double bass or something like that. And that's the sort of stuff that for that particular project I was really interested in. So, yeah, it's good fun.
It's kind of like the Z axis, the X axis, the Y axis, and the Z axis is, the depth of something. I had a theory professor on my channel. I have non-gamers listen to video game music, and he had never heard. He's a composer for saxophone and stuff, and for many, many, many different things. But he was talking about the difference between dynamics and dynamics being not just volume, but also the dynamic like amount of the structure. I thought that was so interesting. It's changed the way that I like listen to a stacked row of instruments, or like why a composer would double or triple and have movement happen at the same time in unison, but have like 6 different instruments at one time, or sections. It's so interesting.
It's really cool. Like, it's just good fun. It sort of gives almost a little bit more of a dimension to orchestration as well, because there is traditional orchestration as well, of course, with established instruments, so to speak, classical era classical instruments. But then expanding that palette, whether it be electronically or through some other way, it's awesome. And it's just like you get to just fuck around with shit and see what works.
Yeah. Fuck around with shit. That's exactly.
Well, the coffee's hitting. It's 10:30 in the morning here.
No, that's apt. That's very. No, absolutely. You're speaking my language. I mean, I find that in a lot of ways, composition is kind of like being a chef. I mean, you're just in there and you're kind of mixing things up, and you're like, oh, the oregano mix, or oregano, excuse me, for you, mixes with parsley, and you get a new whatever. You know what I mean? Like the playing of it seems like, because, well, correct me if I'm wrong, because I mean, like, based on my understanding, like, well, actually, why don't you talk me through this? So if you're working on, let's say you're working on an anime, let's say Apothecary Diaries. Right. And so I would assume you're given a brief, you're given the description of what's going on. I'm assuming you're given picture, and then are you setting to picture, or like, what's the composition? Is it different for every, I'm assuming it's different for every project.
You'd actually be surprised. I mean, obviously it's, project to project, but a lot of anime, you don't write to picture. It's not synchronized music. It's what's called menu music, or library music. So essentially it's almost like a custom library music soundtrack, with occasional exceptions where you do write sort of traditional two-picture synchronized film music. So it's a very, very different approach. I don't know if it's different, but it's actually more akin to video game music in a way, and might even be less interactive than that, because it's sometimes you're not spotting, you're just writing music. It could be how long a piece of music needs to be is completely indeterminate, because they can just edit it later. It can be conducive to a certain style where you like intentionally leave a few extra like bars of something so that they can have an easier edit point. But then, depending on the project, some compositions come out like a absolute freaking fever dream, and I'm not very conducive to editing in the dub. But as a piece of music might be quite fun. Yeah. So it's very different. It gives you a lot of freedom, because you get to essentially just try an idea with with very limited restrictions. You almost just write to a brief. So it's almost like a small little school assignment in a way. Just write to a brief. Just see what happens. But on the flip side, of course, there are times where you're doing full episodes or full movies worth of film music. So you got to kind of bring both approaches to the table. It's almost like you just need to have both sides of your brain like trained up and ready to go, because you never know when you're going to be asked one day to do sync music, one day you're going to do menu music, and you got to kind of change your approach to writing, because everything has its own sort of intricacy and sort of nuance. And so it's an interesting one, because when you're writing, you have a certain standard in your head of how something should go. Yep. And whether it's film music, whether it's menu music, it's like, okay, I want it to be of this quality, and I want the music to be coherent enough in this way. And so trying to achieve almost like that standard of quality for as many tracks as you possibly can, and make it sound like a piece of music that you could listen to outside of it. That's sort of the goal, the selfish goal in the back of your head. Obviously, the primary goal is to write good music.
The
And write,
non-context song. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's like, you got to write good music for the show first. That's the main priority. But if you can also achieve a piece of music that is enjoyable to listen to by itself, that's almost like an added bonus.
Yeah, I mean that's crazy though. That's also like a lot of pressure. I mean, how many measures of music would you say you like are composing in a day? Like, well, also, I mean, God, I've talked to, at this point dozens of composers, and everyone has a different process. But like, I was always really impressed that like someone will sit there and they'll be like, oh, I compose like, I don't know, like 5 minutes of music a day. And I'm like, 5 minutes of music? That's an insane amount of, like, that's a lot of music. And I don't think people really realize just like the brain power that goes into like sitting there and being like, okay, well, how does this sound? How does this sound? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Like what's your like sort of daily expenditure?
At the ripe old age of 33, I am getting tired. I am
winding down.
Yeah, sun just hit that. Sun's getting real low.
Bro, I'm 38. Man. I feel you.
Look, there are good days and bad. I don't know. Like, I'm definitely slow. Like, I used to write so much, and I just could almost like auto write. Now I have to go through relative existential crisis. There needs to be a certain amount of procrastination. Yeah. Watching reruns of the West Wing before I can get into the space to be like.
It is good though.
Yeah,
West Wing's good though.
It is. Oh, it's my favorite show. I know it's weird because like I have no biological or I have no
relation to the U.S. at all. Yeah.
I have no relationship with the United States at all. But it's
a peaceful show. I mean, season 1 is pretty. I mean, like season 1, that's as far as I've gotten.
Obviously, it's very like idealistic, but
yeah.
Actually, honestly, the reason I like it is the writing and the characters and the acting. I just enjoy the package of it. But anyway, so there's a certain amount of like mental prep that now goes in that I didn't need to do before. Get myself in a mental space where I can just be almost just like mentally healthy. I know it sounds so simple when you say it, but it's like just being in like a healthy mindset to come to like make the climb up the stairs to work every day and do the job, emotionally invest in the job as well, which I know you touched on this before, but depending on the music, and some music is easier to write than others. Like I did a project earlier in the year which dealt with loss, and even thinking about it, like literally just going back to that memory of it as I speak to you now, I'm just like, I get that little like well up or like that little lump in the throat. Cause like I had to unfortunately go to some dark places to get to like the music that I wanted to write for that. There's merit to going to that dark place because then you can write music that's very truthful, but it comes at a cost, which is that you get exhausted. And I'm sure it's just like acting and a lot of other creative mindsets that you need to go to and whatever medium it may be. It's just, it can be brutal sometimes just to like, cause you want to write that music. You want to be in that moment for that character or for that scene or for that ideal, but it means you have to get a bit fucked up in order to do it.
No, but it's true. I mean, even in my opera days, I mean, it was always easier to sing a song about a breakup after a breakup. It's always easier to. My dad passed 4 years ago, and almost, which is crazy. And there are several pieces of music. Oh, so okay, we're talking about anime. All right, so I just finished up Violet Evergarden, bro. What the fuck, bro? Like, it wasn't just like everyone's like, have you seen it? I assume you've seen it.
Yeah.
People are like, episode 10. And I'm like, bitch, I was crying at episode 7. And I actually got mad at the show because I was like, bro, this is too much. Like, I can't do this. Like, episode 11 with the soldier. And it's like, okay, dude, like, I get it. But like, this is like ripping me apart. Like, episode 10, I like violently cried. And it's like, it's because the thing is like the rawness that's required. And I think sometimes, I take off my glasses, I get on my soapbox. I think so. It's interesting to have a YouTube channel that focuses essentially like on vibe checking music and talking about like what I hear, what I feel, because my opera days were all about like being a vessel for folks like you. Everyone was dead. The only difference. So it's like, what?
No take feedback.
No take feedback.
Yeah, no request for a safety take.
So add a B flat here at the end. Fix it and then do it tomorrow. Like, it was like, what was Puccini trying to get across? Like, what was the intention here? And we don't know. Or or maybe they didn't even care. But then you're right, though. You have to go to a place where you can tell the truth. And I think sometimes people think that composition is just like eighth note chord tied to, it's in 6/8 time. But I mean, would you say that most of the time what you're actually trying to do, and you sort of just said it, is get to a place emotionally where you can sort of output?
Yeah. So writing something and then analyzing something after the fact are two completely different processes that can't happen at the same time, at least for me. I mean, it's not very conscious in a way at times. Like, obviously there's analytics, especially with film music, where you're saying, okay, I got to do this at this point, and blah, blah, blah. You set up a structure maybe. But then once you set up that sandbox, then you just kind of go ham a little bit, see what you can write. And then after the fact, then maybe look back and be like, okay, does this make sense? So that's maybe a little bit sort of away from any specific emotionality. But essentially, what I'm looking for is, I'm almost looking to enjoy it after the fact. Like, I can listen back to it and I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it, or something like that. So I have a couple of techniques that I use all the time in composition to try and almost like instant feedback myself. Because, yeah, like I said, writing is almost like an unconscious act or a subconscious act. And then after it's done, I'll try and trick my brain into thinking about it in an analytical way in order to see if actually what was said at the time was true. And, it's sort of like almost like saying to a therapist, like, oh, I'm saying this. And then you're like, wait, what did I just say? So you're saying something raw in the moment, and then you have to try and figure out, damn it, now I need to remember what I did. Yeah. So I suffer from something known as perfect pitch, which basically is cool. It's a great party trick, but it's fucking useless at being able to like get out of your own head. Me shifting the pitch on a piece of music in the DAW, I use Logic, but basically I'll use a pitch shifter like every 5 minutes or so, and I'll go up or down up to 3 or 4 steps, and that'll 3 or 4 half steps, I should say. That'll allow my brain to reset and hear it in a completely different light, like it's not something that I wrote. And that's really useful for being able to almost like in real time or close to real time analyze what may or may not be working emotionally, compositionally, technically. So yeah, it's a very useful technique for me personally.
Because it shifts you out of the...
Completely takes you out. And then it's annoying because then like, if you're like, man, that key is better, then you have to like shift everything, but then the artifacts from the pitch shifter aren't there. It's just shifted up, and so it doesn't sound the same to your head, like timbrally. So you're like, fuck, I can't get into... I had this idea and now it's not there. Fuck. And then you spiral like a motherfucker and then come back 2 hours later and try again. Welcome to a day in the life, man.
Yeah, no, I love it. I mean, it's to me, in some ways, I feel like composition is kind of a miracle because your average person... and we all have different disciplines. Like I know how to understand a piece unbelievably well because for 14 years, that was my job, to be an interpreter. So like I know for the most part what a composer is trying to say, and it's my job to then relay it to an audience, whether it's through words or through action or through singing it. Right? Obviously, that's my special skill over time. But so for you, do you feel like, because I can't even fathom the beginning steps of like, I understand basic composition, but I can't even fathom like the pieces that you've made, the through line through these pieces and the difference that each of these pieces has. Like how, I mean, I can't even fathom like, what is the process? Like, is it just like old hat now? So you just like are able to just pull out, example like that. I really don't know how to pronounce it. Hamazima, the made in a bit.
Hanazeve Haradina.
That's a miracle to me. Like, I'm not blowing smoke up your ass, but it's like, it's a miracle that like someone is just like, oh, I'm going to write this. How do you do it? You know what I mean? Is this a dumb question?
I kind of screwed myself on that one a little bit, and I'll explain why. So I had this concept for that particular season of the show, and this actually ironically goes back to the Bartok Concerto for Orchestra analysis days of high school. Concerto for Orchestra had this idea or concept where every instrument line was essentially a soloist. So that's why it's called Concerto for Orchestra. And so whether it be violin A, fuck off. Sorry, violin 1, violin 2, flutes, etc., etc. It was basically just treated as a soloist. And I took that concept and I applied it to solo instruments in a big room for textual reasons. But basically, I wanted to like explore different interactions of like multiple voices multiple solo voices and try and make that cohesively work. Because Abyss season 1 had, I think, 19 or 20 essentially solo instruments, I had to try and make all those lines work together. Once you get to that almost like a critical mass of voices, and you've screwed yourself over because now you've got all these voices that you need to work with, and you're adding vocals, and you're adding electronics, and you're adding drums. All of a sudden you're like, okay, how do I fix this? So
it's too much, yeah.
In a way, it's like you're trying to find creative solutions to problems that you've caused for yourself. And that's the only way that that track can work, is by finding solutions to problems. And I just probably realized, it's probably the first time I've actually said that, and I'm like realizing it myself now as well. It's like essentially I'm causing problems for myself and trying to find cool ways to fix it, which doesn't sound very positive, but it is. It's good fun.
No, I mean, but isn't that just, I mean, that's just the process of making music, isn't it? I mean, like, it seems to me like music is just happy accidents almost all the time.
It's definitely an accident. But taking that concept and going further with it, there's a couple of tracks in the same series, but in a later season where it's kind of taken to extremes, where there's emotional turmoil. The second season was written like in like peak COVID. There was definitely a lot of like internal struggle because particularly Melbourne, it was like crazy lockdown and all that sort of thing. So there was a lot of like cabin fever, so to speak, and just, you know, adjusting to that lifestyle was super difficult. Basically like trying to like express that frustration or like crazy, you know, almost neurotic emotion in music, but then trying to make it work as a piece of music from a technical standpoint. And it just so happened to be like a really heavy, long magnum opus style, like full orchestra, full electronics, Bulgarian choir, soloists, like just like quite, you know, almost like sound messy in a way, heavy electronics. And I mean like it was analog synth, digital synth, sampling. It had the works, basically. The only way that I can sometimes find the solution is by making a track longer. So thank God that they don't have a time limit on some of these things, because it just meant that I could
get
just
yourself out of the hole.
Yeah, I could just be like, oh, I'm just going to spend 8 minutes digging myself out of a freaking hole that I dug at, you know,
2 minutes.
Minute number 2. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, normally it's when the tracks are shorter. That's when I have a problem.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, also it must be tough because you have to like, you know, you have to think motif, and also the concepts of like motif versus melody, and like how, you know, most pieces have melody, but then you also, do you want to make a motif that's memorable? Do you know how, and that's also another thing. Have you ever heard the idiom about, or not idiom, sorry, Giuseppe Verdi, he, during La Donna Mobile from Rigoletto, he like knew he had a hit on his hands and he knew it would be super catchy. So he kept it really, really secret from everybody. He didn't announce, like they didn't like make sure it didn't leak ahead of time, because he knew that people would be like humming it in the streets. And I always find this concept of like motivic writing or leitmotifs and melodies so fascinating, because sometimes every piece of music, as we know, has, for the most part, has a melody, even if it's, you know, 4 measures, you know, whatever, like, but it's not always a motif or an earworm. And I find even trying to explain that, so like, make something memorable, you know, you can't be like, oh, I know this is gonna be, maybe you can, I don't know, you tell me.
I'm not a particularly spiritual guy, but I really believe in karma and I believe in causality. So I don't know if I would have the stones to think that something's going to be a hit. I can hope, and I can walk away from something saying I did the best I could, but like, I didn't know that certain things were and were not going to hit. Like, you know, Abyss hit. I didn't know I was going to do that. I just did the best I could, and it just so happened to give me a career, which was awesome. But well, there's no prediction there. And I feel like tempting fate is just not something I'm willing to fuck with, because I feel like life can fuck that so much harder than I could give it a go for. So it's almost just like, in a way, there's a bit of peace to that. Just being like, I'm just going to do the thing, and then whatever happens, happens. Like, I can hold my head up high. I can do the best that I can. I can promote it, sure, but like, it gives, like, you know, fucking, if I say, oh, I'll go listen to the soundtrack, it's like, oh, well, fine, but then that's it. It's like, I'd rather just, you know, I'll do my best to be like, this is available if you want to hear it, but I'm not going to force it down someone's throat. It's just, that's just asking for trouble in my head. I'm not saying that's the correct approach, but it's the one I got, and it's the one that I've made peace with. And it means that just like, I can do something, I can really invest in it, and then I can go play with my puppy. And then she's almost 2 years old now, so almost a dog, although she's still puppy brain. But yeah, you get what I mean.
You know what's interesting is that like when I was singing, I was under like a lot of duress at all times, and it was always stressful. And you're talking about as long as you can put your best foot forward, that's all you can really do. And what was interesting is that now, like 3 years into my YouTube channel, like I have a tendency to when I was a singer, full steam ahead, I was a perfectionist, and it killed me. And so what I ended up having to do was lower the bar. And so when I started my YouTube channel and things started to pick up traction, I would purposely, and I still kind of do this, I will purposely film on days that I don't really feel like doing it, because I want to know where the bar is, so that I know that I can meet the bar, and then obviously try to exceed the bar. Like, I don't think I've ever put out a video that was half-assed, and I'm sure, I doubt highly you've ever put out a piece of music you're like, well, fuck them, good enough. But it's also good to.
I said fuck it a couple of times. Like, fuck it, let's just go.
Do
it live.
But
do it live.
There's something, isn't that empowering though in a way? Because it like shows you where like you don't have to push so hard to produce something. Because I mean, surely, I mean, I know that you never feel probably settled, but surely you feel like you're at a confident place. I would hope. If not, it's okay too. I mean, obviously, I know that it's like every gig is as good as your last gig, but surely I would assume you feel like, okay, we're all right.
Yeah, sometimes. I don't know. Like, it just feels like it resets every time.
Yeah,
a little bit.
I get that feeling.
Yeah, sequels are hard. Sequels are very hard.
Oh God, season 2. Are season 2s hard?
Season 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s. It's just like, because the ego side of it is just like, I want to do better.
Yeah.
And it's like, can you? It's like, well, maybe on a technical level, but on an emotional level, like, it's completely open. Like, the emotions I was feeling when I was 24, 25 versus the emotions that I'm feeling now, they're not any stronger or weaker. They're just different. Yeah. And so, my ability to translate those feelings maybe into an impactful piece of music might have gotten stronger or maybe a little bit more consistent. But, at the end of the day, I don't know if I'm going to ever write a piece of music that, hits the same way that Hanazevi does. And that I wrote that when I was 24. I'm 33 now.
Jeez, that's crazy, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think that's true. Yeah, it was 2017. It's 2025 now. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty close to that.
It's amazing, like the angst that comes through in that particular piece that maybe 24-year-old Kevin maybe was feeling deep down, and it's like that sort of, again, the release of like whatever emotion and stuff.
It's called Living in East London. Yeah, that is the experience of living in East London. Because Tara God, I was living in Brixton at the time, which is even more interesting. Actually, Brixton, I had a great time in both Whitechapel and Brixton, but yeah, like the East and South London. So there's a good quality. There's a good air quality there. It turns out it's very conducive to writing music. And yeah, since moving back to Australia, I've just gone further and further into like the countryside and like into like isolation. So I've gone from the complete opposite of like dense London, stronghold to like,
huge spiders,
like dodging kangaroos on the road, which is not hyperbole. We have to,
God,
it's a whole thing here. So
I'd love to come and visit, but you ain't going to see me anywhere near those big ass spiders. It's a no-go.
Well, we call them wall kittens because they're not aggressive and they're not venomous. At least not to us. And they're actually, technically they're good because they eat the venomous spiders that are in your house.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, so they're technically a friend, not a foe.
But they're like...
But at the end, yeah, the big guys. But at the end of the day, it's still a fucking giant huntsman spider. And I feel like I upgraded my Australian citizenship to the next level recently because I was driving my car and I forgot my sunnies, so I used the sun visor. And all of a sudden...
Don't tell me.
Yeah, exactly where you think this story is going. I look up and I just see eyes. And the sun visor's closed. I just see eyes looking at me. and just the legs, and you can see the hairs. And I was just like, have you ever screamed but like not opened your mouth? And you're just like, and it's just that, and just heavy braking, pull over, get out. And I found like a fucking like McDonald's thrown away cup, and I was just like, I was just like, fuck, that was a good one. So I can say that I've done that now,
bro.
Yeah. Yeah, it's how to describe it. You definitely find out what kind of person you are in it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a bitch.
Like, what do you do when you're driving a motor vehicle and you're confronted with the fact that there is a giant spider looking at you? You can see the freaking eyeballs, and it's just staring at you, and you're like, so, do I just turn into a ditch, or, you know, what do I do? Yeah, so, yeah.
Well, surely this stuff helps you be a better composer. I mean,
it's well, for Made in Abyss, it's just basically Australia in animated form. So yeah, I was born for this, mate. I was born for this. Yeah.
You know, Made in Abyss, you mentioned it being like it's obviously connected to a isolation and being closed off and stuff. Like, do you find that it's really difficult if a brief says, you know, we want happy, but you're in a negative state of mind, or, you know, we want, you know, the opposites emotions. I feel like it's really hard. I always felt like it was really like before performances, I have significant obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD. It perpetuated like hardcore anxiety before performances. Like, I was unwell for most of my performances.
Right.
So it's really hard to go out on stage and play like, you know, a soldier or someone who's really confident when inside you're like shitting bricks and like, you know, you're dousing yourself with Pepto and Imodium trying to stay alive. Like, do you find that that's difficult? I mean, is there like a pressure component to try to like, you know, dig deep and find an emotion that is different than what you're feeling when writing, or is it kind of just
comedy? I suck at comedy.
You're the brooding. You're brooders.
I can do depressive shit. Fucking eyes closed. I can do that. I'm good. I'm well versed in angst. I've got a bachelor. I've got an undergrad in freaking, you know,
like depression.
Yeah, depression. What's it called? Not trauma, although I've got that as well. But like, what's it called? Disassociation disorder or whatever.
All right.
Yeah, any of that sort of stuff. Bring it on, man. I'm very good at it. But comedy I find difficult. I mean, I'd like to be better at comedy. Maybe I just need like a comedy show. There's a stereotype out there that like the best comedy music doesn't sound like comedy music. Like, it's never like too like on the nose or anything like that. So I can get how that works. It's just, yeah, I don't know. It's also interesting because also like comedy music, children's music, that sort of stuff, animated music, or like Western animated music tends to be the most technical as well. Most amount of notes on the page by a significant margin. There's just a timeout element to it as well. It's like, you just, you know, if you want sad music, you just play one chord and wait 20 seconds for the next one.
Sustain, yeah.
Yeah. Whereas like, if you're being chased by something, or if you're, you know, falling down a hill with a boulder chasing after you and you're going, wah, you know, that requires more detail. I would say that my weaknesses are probably in comedic writing.
I mean, it was always easier to like sing a really sad love song or like be angsty, like, you know, Fair Tear or something where it's like, you know, my life sucks or whatever, but then it's really
like Gravity.
Like, I love my life. Everything's great. Boop, boop, boop.
Yeah. The thing is, like, if I'm loving my life, I'm normally not in front of a computer. if I'm happy, well, the thing is also like, have you ever been in the moment and be like, oh, I'm happy right now? Because I've never done that. I know that I'm happy after the fact.
Yeah. Well, it depends on if there's euphoria, right? Because that feeling of like,
yeah.
Lately I do. Yeah. I have to be honest. Well, I'm recently married, so I'll wake up and like next to my wife and my dog's like at my feet. I'm like, fuck, man. I actually had this thought 2 weeks ago, not to go on a whole thing. This is about you, not about me, but I saw something from my past. And sometimes, I mean, I'm singing now, obviously more in different ways, which I've starting to get used to because, you know, the whole like digital world is new. And I kind of want to keep exploring it because I feel like there's actually like potential here, except no one uses tenor soloists, which is bullshit, but that's a separate conversation. And, I remember I asked the composer.
We'll see what we can do.
Yeah, I talked to a composer and I was like, "How come you guys don't use male voices?" And he's like, "Well, the sopranos are easier to like, because they're above it's not the same register as some of the instruments." And I'm like, "What the fuck, man?" Like, it's like
Yeah. We shouldn't have a recorded conversation about singer stereotypes. That's going to go real tough. I'm very pro tenor. I'm very pro.
Are you?
I'm pro. Yeah, I'm just pro. Yeah, I'm pro Barry, pro bass, pro tenor, pro falsetto.
So sometimes when I see like the live aspects of my life, I'm like,
yep,
wow. And it's weird because that's my trauma. Like it's 14 years was not nothing, and every year of my 20s. I always was like, next year's my year, I believe, and then you get shit on or something happens and like, or you get like harassed. And so like all these things now being almost 40, which feels really weird because I feel like I'm finally in a comfort. And as I'm sure you understand, and I'm sure it's maybe slightly different for composers as performers, possibly. And we can talk about that, but it's like, I felt like I always had to be on. I always had to be a thing. I always had to be the performer. And so now to wake up and have these moments of stillness where I'm just like, man, I know that these are the good old days. That's really fucking new. And it's weird that it came from a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Like the weirdest shit. But yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So that's where I'm trying to get. And I'm aware of it, which is a good first step.
Yeah.
But I like talking about this shit. It's way more interesting than the fucking music as well. So, I mentioned at the start, like, I love my job, but it is a job. And I like coming to work with inspiration, genuine inspiration, writing it down, expressing myself, being able to express something that I'm actually genuinely feeling. And then I like stepping away. I really value kind of time off and trying to be in the moment, away from music a little bit as well. And you kind of alluded to this a little bit just now. Like, it is an intense job and it is really frequent. Like, some people do, but I don't keep hours. It's not a 9 to 5. It's like, it's on and off, and it's never really off. Like even on holidays, I could be in Japan and, still something would happen and, I'll bring the studio just in case something needs to be done. But the mindset of always being on is tough.
It's taxing.
Yeah, it's taxing. It's tiring because you were talking about stillness and that sounds like freaking paradise. Like, I would just love to not think for a while, but I don't want to like disregard my job and I don't want to disregard my duties either. So it's kind of a weird sort of paradox where I'm aiming to try and get to a point where I can, take that time, but also, I also do enjoy what I do really much so. So it's strange. It's this weird freaking paradox where I'm just like, I don't want to stop, but I do, but I don't, but I do just for a little bit, maybe.
Yeah.
But then I'll get bored.
Well, exactly. I know.
Yeah.
I know. Some people call that being a workaholic, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's like at all, buddy.
I love it when I see the 2 a.m. thing. I can't work nights anymore. Actually, like, I'm not sure what you are/were like in terms of work, but I used to like do like nighttime writing and stuff like that. It was 6 o'clock in the evening now, and I'm just like, nah, done. Fucking have no gas left in the tank. I'm done. I'm going to go watch TV and make dinner and do something else. Cause I like when I have energy in the morning and when I have energy in the afternoon, I'm good. Like I can go, but 5, 6, maybe 7 o'clock, I'm out and I just can't do the night times anymore. So I'm like very like anti, midnight owl, sort of night owl sort of thing.
I mean, that's a young man's game anyway. I mean, I feel like when I was 22, 24, 25, I would stay up till 2, get up at 8, warm up, and then be ready for like, studio at 10, right? Which at that time I was like 10 o'clock. What the fuck? Why are we singing at 10 o'clock? But then like, you fast forward, like what's also crazy to me is like Metropolitan Opera dress rehearsals are like at 10 a.m. Like, what the fuck? And because they have double, because they have the other one in the evening, right? So it's like, or performance or whatever. But it's like, I can't even now. Yeah, I don't do that anymore. I do 9 to 5, 8 to 5, sometimes 6 to 5, depending on like if it's a game in China or Japan or there's like some preview. But I usually clock out by 6 because honestly, like, life's too short, man. Like, I mean, like, to have a good meal and spend time with the dog and like, 100%.
100%. And that's good for the soul, which means it's good for the work.
Well, and that's just it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because everything you're doing comes from the soul.
Yep. And, if you don't feed that motherfucker, then I would wager a bet that it probably has some negative adverse effect on your output. Because, at some point you're going to tire of it. And there's, you can be like, oh, you're young, you can do this, you can do that. You can say that as much as you want, but, priorities do change. Or they evolve, or they expand, I should say. They don't change. Well, I think they fucking do, just not for me. But it's just sort of like, I found more things to enjoy in addition to music. And so that informs the music as well, because it allows me to, and this is probably why I've slowed down a little bit as well, like output wise, is what I write means more to me now, or it should. I want that to be doesn't have to be a profound statement of extreme blah, blah, blah all the time. There's highs and lows, and there's, peaks and troughs. I can't pronounce it. So writing, not every track needs to be a classified or certified banger, so to speak.
Isn't that boring anyway?
Well, try eating cake every day for every meal. It's sick.
It grinds my gears a little bit when you put out a video. Obviously I deal with other things, not just audience, but also algorithms and stuff. But you put out a video about music that is not bangers. Bangers always does well, but it's hype always does well. But at the same time, one of the things that I wonder about, especially in this realm, classical music I feel differently about, just because the history is there, and even though it's always constantly dying, it's also constantly living. So it's a really funny thing about classical music. But with gaming, it's here's 40 years of history, and most people don't really think about the thing that happened 10 years ago, which was perfectly good, and it's gone. That's it.
No.
I don't know if it's like that with anime. I think people still are soundtracks to Logon, or, Fate Zero's soundtrack, that came out a while ago. It still reverberates in me because whatever. So I think the openings and closings and things, but it's interesting how gaming, it's if it's not a banger, it's whatever.
Well, I mean, it's a little bit of the sign of the times. I mean, I don't want to do a full social commentary on where people's attention spans are at today, but I think we can all agree that
we don't want to.
Yeah, they're a touch shorter than they maybe used to be. It's hard as well, because what's in your ability to not manipulate, but what's in your ability to actually have influence on in the larger social zeitgeist? I feel like my influence over the general public is extremely minimal. Sometimes people at the right time, for the right length of time, see what I do. And for those people, I will, want to, and I've said this a couple of times, put my best foot forward. But I'm not going to expect anyone to be forced to listen to what I do, or, I'm not going to, how to put it, I wouldn't hold it against society to not worry about what I'm doing. And I hope I got my double negatives correct. I was very lucky with Abyss and Tower of God, where they came at I know it's weird to say the right time, but Abyss was in a vacuum at the time. There was nothing like it coming out. Yeah. Tower of God, COVID, spring 2020 as well, just came at the right time. It was the first it was along with God of High School. It was the first Korean adapted anime as well, or Korean manhwa adapted anime coming out at the time. So there was certain things going for it. Other shows that I've done have not had the same sort of space carved out for it, but that's no fault of the show. It's no fault of anything really. It's just fate and timing. But just in case it does end up being a certified banger, you keep one in the back pocket, sort of thing.
Hell yeah, I know.
Yeah, but I really enjoy just writing music, and I know it's a weird thing to say, but I just didn't writing music for the sake of writing music. Sometimes is great fun, and not thinking about where it needs to lead, or where someone else's interpretation of it needs to lead. If they enjoy it, I'll kiss your feet, because I really appreciate that. But at the same time, if no one listens to it, it's really not the end of the world. I still did it, still learn from it. It still informs what I do now, which is great. So it's good education at the very least. So yeah, it
never stops, does it either? The education on music never really stops.
Nor should it.
a lot of what I do is like the first year I did a lot of reaction content. And what I find frustrating about reaction content is that people watch it, they see your face, it's like, oh wow, okay. Anyway. And the thing is, like, there's so much depth to re-listens. I think re-listens are such a fascinating thing to be able to be like, oh, I didn't hear this last time, or I'm a different person than, we were talking about things you change, like music changes with us for the most part. It's not static. It's such a, I don't, not to get hoity-toity about music, but like isn't it amazing? I mean, does it feel weird for you? Okay. Does it feel weird for you living in a digital world where, let's say we were in 1700s Germany, right? Like, your music would not be recorded. It would just be, you would play it in the air, it disappears up into the rafters, and that's it. Like, is it ever strange to you that, like, your music, I can just go to YouTube right now and grab the Kevin Penkin topic and find the tune? Like, do you ever wish or think about this? Or is this like, I'm just going off on a total different tangent? Like, music is technically like, not only is it intangible, but it's also impermanent. It's not meant to last. Like, it's meant to sort of dissipate in the air if it's in a live state. Does that ever cross your mind? You can say no, it's fine. It doesn't. Okay, fair, whatever.
I enjoyed nostalgia, which involves reliving something in your head, at least, if not by re-listening to something or re-experiencing something. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that one. I'm a little.
I went too deep.
No. It's just more like, I've never thought of the ability to re-listen to music on demand as a positive or a negative. It's just something that exists because it is what. Yeah, I just think I'm happy when I accept things for what they are, which is not very critical thinking of me, but at least makes life a little bit simpler. So, I mean, I enjoy being able to listen to music anytime that I want to. So, I feel, but it also it brings up something slightly deeper, which is more like, do I have the ability to be with my own thoughts, which is a whole other thing. So it's just like, now. No, yeah, maybe later. But I enjoy K-pop, I enjoy J-pop, and so I tend to listen to a lot of music that I have no creative association with.
Would you ever want to compose an opera?
Fuck yeah, bring it on.
I'm surprised you haven't yet, to be honest.
Closest I got to is Bye Bye Earth, just in terms of sort of operatic style. But yeah, it's not consistent in the same way that opera is. So this is not, telling one story in one way. Yeah, it'd be cool. Musical theater as well. Like, I'm not a big musical theater buff, but writing one would be cool.
I like desperately want to figure out how to connect you with some people stateside, because I feel like, so having listened to Bye Bye Earth, and then also just in general, your like melodic capacity and uniqueness, I think is so interesting. And I think one of the most beautiful things about my current job is that I get to talk to like just incredibly talented modern composers. And I made the joke earlier about composers being dead mostly, but the fact of the matter is that like most composers that come up in opera are dead, or worse, the modern composers write like in an academic sort of like non-melodic, sort of, it's hard to explain, but it's a little bit neutered. Whereas I feel like your music, and there's other composers as well, like, and I'm not blowing smoke, but just this fluidity and this sense of rhyme and melody, and you can tell that it comes from like this soulful place, whether that be a dark place or a happy, whatever the place is. Like, I so want to figure out how to get you hooked up with somebody in the States that would actually like hear your music and run with it, because there's a desperate need for good modern melodic writing in your music, especially I think because of your background, because of the like classical mix with electronic, synthetic, whatever, like all the combination of that. I feel like it would be so unique in an opera house, and I'm like, come on, fuck, how do I do this? So I'm gonna keep my ear out for that, because I think it would be so interesting.
My only concern is about fucking it up. It's just like, but I mean that in like, I know
what you mean. Yeah.
Adapting libretto to music and doing it right, and just having the wide angle lens, or the education, I should say, to understand what came before and what very small part I'd be then playing in the continuation of that. That's where most of my anxiety is around that sort of thing. And it's the same statement for musical theater as well. If presented with the opportunity, I'd go hard and I dig in. I know the phrase "lock the fuck in" is going around right now. So I would lock the fuck in.
Lock the fuck in forever.
I would lock the fuck in, but I would just be painfully aware of what's behind me. Or I'd want to be painfully aware of what's behind me.
Do you not feel that with anime though?
Well, because I was an avid consumer of it. It's just a little bit different, whereas I'm not an avid consumer of opera and musical theatre in the same way. I mean, there's no way to escape the fact that I didn't grow up the same way that musical theatre or opera aficionados grew up around those mediums. So I'm not going to try and like bullshit my way into like fucking 100, 200, 300 plus years of history and just be like, oh, well, now I'm clued up, so I'm just going to go for it now. Like, I'm not going to be able to like gene splice my way through this, but I can clue up, obviously. I can get more educated, as I said, and then I can just kind of write something in the context of I'm giving it my best shot, and hopefully I make you proud, or at least don't disappoint you too much. I don't know who I'm disappointing or not, but, you know, it's a quote that I'm taking from The West Wing, but that it is from a different quote. It's a quote within a quote. It's Inceptor quote. But it's a Inceptor quote. Chief of Staff Leo McGarry is saying to President Bartlett at the end of the third season, what does the monk say? I don't know if I'm pleasing you, God, but I think that me trying to please you pleases you. So the attempt of pleasing is in itself pleasing.
Self-pleasing.
The attempt of trying to make proud is in itself prideful, or like makes someone
makes pride. But I mean, but that's like a philosophy for life. Then I mean, surely you've adopted that for yourself too. Imagine.
I don't know. That's the thing. It's like I hope that what I do pleases. Yeah, I guess so. Thank you, therapist.
Yeah, you're welcome, buddy. What's up? Yeah, $150. All right.
Yeah. I'm not gonna write something that's gonna, slap every time, and so all I can do is just do my best.
Do your best.
And even if it's not what it was maybe intended to be in terms of impact, but it's still, I still can say I tried, which isn't very Yoda-esque of me. Because there is do or do not with Yoda, but there is no try. But, I did it, maybe.
I mean, is there a certain point where after it's out in the world, you kind of just have to put your hands in the air and say, well, it is what it is? Because people are going to interpret words differently, I assume.
I've always been really interested in that interpretation from people, so I do enjoy, like, not just for the ego, yes, of course, there's part of it, but, like, there is gratification in seeing what people think of it. And I've always said, and this is still the truth, even though it's slightly hyperbolic. Like, it's not about whether it's positive or negative inherently. It's more about seeing what the reaction is and just seeing how people react to it. Obviously, the intention is not to write shit music or music that, received negatively. But, it fucking happens because people are different and not everyone's the same. So, the intention is always good. The result is questionable.
Well, and also you can't, I mean, it was so interesting. So again, this non-gamer, I invited an opera agent in, and people would say that maybe my selections were not the best, and they probably could have been tighter, but like he hated everything I presented besides maybe like Clear Obscure Expedition 33, right? The game that just came out in May. And how clued in are you in the gaming world, by the way?
Not as much as I freaking should be for someone who participates in it from an industry perspective. I'm in a phase right now where I'm playing all the game, like Switch 2 has like the GameCube now, so I am just going through Wind Waker.
I just played that. Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, going through Wind Waker. I know they're coming out with Fire Emblem, Path of Radiance. I know they're coming out with Luigi's Mansion 1. It's out? Fuck. Okay, I need to, okay.
That's out.
Now I really need to get my work done. Yeah, so you see where I'm going with it. Like, I enjoy my little, like, nostalgia. That's why I watch the same shows. I watch fucking Scrubs, I watch West Wing, and then I play Wind Waker, and I play Luigi's Mansion 1. That's what I do now. I am a time capsule. Self-imposed.
That's probably healthy, though. I mean, I get what you mean, though. He wasn't interested in anything. And in fact, he disliked most things pretty vehemently. And it's not that he was comparing it under the lens of classical music. And I find it interesting because I think video games specifically, but probably anime to a degree as well, is like it's stuck in what it's trying to do. I view all video game music as good, and I don't think there are some shit pieces of music, but ultimately comes down to, do I like it or do I not? Why or why not, in a respectful, constructive way? Or at the very least, like, I don't know why I don't like it. I don't like it. Fine. But like I find that I gotta figure out what the point of this is. Sorry, ADHD moment. What is the point of what I'm trying to say?
Don't think of elephants. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I got diagnosed like a couple months ago, and I'm like, oh yeah, fuck. All right.
I think it's also just natural for the brain to wonder. Like, it wonders. It's what it does.
Yeah. Well, I forget what the question was, but it essentially was like,
sorry.
No, I mean, ultimately, when you give it away, you give it away, right? And that's kind of the thing.
Did you say that you give it away now?
Oh, musically.
Sorry, I'm just being a.
Wait, I don't think you could say that.
You said give it away, and you said it with the same rhythm. So give it away now. Sorry.
Oh.
Yep. Sorry.
I got to trim out the C word because we use it a different way.
Yep. My bad.
Should have said don't use.
Sorry.
Nathan, cut out the.
Yeah. Hold on. There we go.
Use that and then.
Yep, there you go. Sample that one.
You can't just give away I mean, at the end of the day, you have to just give it up, and it's not yours to own, right? Does that you ever think about that? Like the idea that like someone could interpret something. Well, I guess you answered the question.
No, I definitely time capture everything after the fact, because one, from a professional standpoint, like, once you've done something, once it's done, it's done.
It's done.
And yeah, as best I can say that, and like, there's nothing changing that now. That's concrete. So moving on to the next thing is good for me. Like, I enjoy revisiting things, but never trying to redo them. Not in that sense, or not in that way. And I was saying that sequels are difficult. The reason I find sequels difficult is because I can't say the same thing, like both physically and like morally. It's like I can't just do slightly more of the same. It's like things have to change, or at least in my mind. I don't know what the result is. The result is up for debate. But in terms of the mental approach, it's just like, I need this to change because I've changed and I can't do the same thing. I can use tools, or I can use sounds or nostalgia. I love using nostalgia. So, bringing back something that is of that time, but then, redressing it in a new way.
Yeah.
That's all cool, but it's impossible to like try and recreate something. It's like memory's never going to be the same.
Well, it's kind of like a relationship too. It's like if you break up and you try to get back together, you're two different people, even if it's been a month or a year or whatever. Like it's really difficult to come back to something and be the same way you were in that moment. You can't capture that again.
People change, as they should. Hopefully for the better, but you never know.
So it's interesting to me that like the tools in the processes maybe are the same, but the person inherently is different. So therefore, it's always interesting to me that like the technique is the thing that sets you free. The technique is the thing that's there, but it's the emotionality behind it that actually makes the technique even valid or interesting. You know what I mean? Like that's. It's so interesting how the tools, you would think, I think oftentimes people think that the tools are the interesting part, but it's really the tools are just the tools. It's the way that we use the tools that makes it interesting.
I am constantly convinced that I'm just trying to express the exact same emotion over and over again in slightly different ways. I feel like I'm just on that hamster wheel, just the gerbil wheel, just going round and round. Because, even though feelings like change or become more complex, at the same time, like, I felt an emotion recently, a strong negative one, that it's the exact same emotion that I probably felt when I was 21, 22. And I realized I probably hadn't dealt with that emotion in a way that I now want to. But it's just sort of like, I was feeling this emotion now. I was feeling the exact same intensity from that emotion. And it wasn't a positive one, but it's just sort of like, I remember having that same like fire, 22, 29, and it's like, okay, so that's a strong emotion and I got to deal with that. But when it comes to applying that emotion to, say, music or craft, it's almost like I just have different techniques of trying to focus that now into something.
Right.
Yeah, for me, it's like I probably have my lexicon of emotions. I'm sure they will expand and mature, but it's like, happy, sad, angry, all that sort of stuff. Like, it still comes from the same thing. Like, this is something I'm trying to explore now, and it's hard to get out, or like hard to express like in the correct terms or words. But like, I'm like exploring like the emotion of anger is anger as a kid and anger as an adult? Or is grief as a kid and grief as an adult the same thing? And you're just trying to understand it better or through a different lens or express it healthier or express it different, what is that? And I don't have an answer. It's just something I'm trying to explore now. And then, of course, apply it to music as well. But it's like, how do you deal with these things constantly? Because I guess hopefully the idea is that you're able to, accept these emotions better as you get older. Which, when you apply that to craft, it's like, can you express these emotions musically better as well, or more maturely? Like, can you take the idea of grief as a 22-year-old composer, write something sad because you're sad, or write something angry because you're angry, and then come back 10 years later and try and use the exact same emotion and try and write something sad or angry then? And, is it better, worse, or is it just as honest as before, just maybe slightly more like technically proficient? Or it's more of an open question.
So my dad died when I was 35, right? 4 years. So that's the sharpest I have. That's the sharpest example of grief I have. It's the grief of my life, right? And the thing that's interesting is that the grief I felt the night that he passed was monumental and profound, and that grief is still that grief today. The only difference is that I've grown around it. And so, like, when we were jokingly talking about episode 10 of Violet Evergarden, that's when that grief jar was really poked, and all of a sudden the same 35-year-old just came out. It's like falling in love at 22 will probably feel different than falling in love at 32, but the falling in love at 22 is just as valid, because that's like, I don't know. I feel like the emotions don't change. It's like the anxiety I feel when having to present in public is the same as the anxiety I felt when I was presenting in public when I was 27, when I was singing, right? So like, that doesn't change, because not only because I haven't managed it or figured out how to navigate it, it's just like a thing that's just me, right? Like, I've developed that thing, and that's what it is. But I find that, you didn't ask me, but I guess I'm answering the question. But like, I find that the emotions aren't different. What's different is you, the person, fundamentally.
100%. Completely agree.
I think that's a super interesting thing. I mean, especially for you as a composer. I mean, I guess for me, for an interpreter, because I mean, at the end of the day, like, how you that in Italian we like sfogare, like to release, that sort of like, that feeling of. I feel like I understand you, because writing heavy and writing it with deep emotionality, where like philosophically and fundamentally, the need to, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to, pouring yourself out because you need the outlet. I mean, that's how I was when I was singing, but that's what probably makes you so fucking good at it, because you're just like, it's basically like just catharsis and or a desperate need to turn the valve and release. Do you feel like that?
There's definitely times like that. I used the COVID analogy with one of the Abyss season 2 tracks before. Same thing with other emotions as well. Like, I had to deal with some pretty bad grief this year. It's okay. But like I put a lot of, like, I wasn't dealing with it, but I was expressing it, and I was able to express it through music, which, it didn't turn the valve off, but it just kind of relieved the pressure a little bit. So if that's not a metaphor for work in progress, I don't know what it is. But it does help. It does help to have that outlet. And then outside of music, other activities to help with, we're musicians, so we feel a lot of emotions, and we're humans, so we feel a lot of emotions. Yeah. And, everyone's different in terms of how they deal with that, or how they go about sort of navigating those complex emotions or strong emotions. Yeah, sometimes music can be very good for that. I'm not sure if it's a healer for the person expressing them. Like, because when someone like listens to something and then they can, just feel something. Yeah. And they just kind of almost like, they just sort of kind of unlocks the ability to emote and have that sympathy. For the writer, I'm not sure if it's a healing process or just
it's fucking not, dude.
Pressure release. Yeah.
I hated those articles that come out and be like, oh, people that listen to classical music are more relaxed. What the fuck? I am the opposite.
No. categorically wrong.
Categorically not relaxed, even slightly.
If someone can be relaxed by music, then great. And it is to be fair, we'll explore this for a minute. Like, I listen, if I'm walking the dog and I'm listening to fucking J-pop, you know that song that came out that's been memed? That's like, Nene-san, hi, Nanigaski. Like, I like that song. I enjoy listening to that song. That's actually a really well put together song. Yeah, I feel relaxed after listening to that a little bit. Why shouldn't someone who listens to classical music have the exact same experience? I think the only problem is, obviously, classical era music is slightly different, but like, you know, romantic era, once you hear that Mozart's Requiem. Actually, no, that's not true, because there's very, very valid examples of emotional music that's way before Mozart's Requiem, of course. But so that's a very incorrect statement by me. But I think classical music probably has the ability to take you on a slightly more turbulent ride than a 3-minute J-pop song about ice cream. Not that it's invalid.
Not that it's valid, but with games, you know, one of the hard parts is that things loop, or things are done, you know, in 8-bit, 16-bit, MIDI, and all that other stuff. And so I think sometimes when I get these classical musicians to come on, I think they're kind of like, well, it's not as complete or as rich texturally as classical music. And it's like, yes.
To you.
However, that doesn't mean, right, A. And B, it doesn't mean that it's invalid as a meaningful tool of connect, like, you know, Yoko Shimomura's Street Fighter 2 Guile theme can still get someone amped the fuck up. You know, it doesn't need to be fucking Unfinished Symphony number 8 by Schubert or something. You know what I mean? Like, there are plenty of other ways to get amped up. And I think, like, that's when it becomes reductive. And that's when it becomes like, okay, you just don't like it because you think that classical music is superior in the way that it's composed, but that's not true per se.
Remember from Star Wars Episode 3, it's like, only a Sith deals in absolutes. Like, yeah, I kind of dig that. Not like the Jedi approach. It's like, I don't like dealing in too many absolutes, or any absolutes, if I can avoid it. I know I just made one, or made a couple, but like, so hypocrisy thy name is. But nonetheless, it's like me liking or disliking classical era music versus not, or someone really, like, you know, really imprinting on classical era music and not imprinting on J-pop ice cream music. That's also like super valid. It's just that I don't like the idea that one is better than, just based off the history that it comes from, because there are really incredible examples of both. And I like the idea that all music can just kind of coexist and be awesome. There's some Ravel that I really like, and there's some Ravel that I don't like. And there's some J-pop that I like, and some J-pop that I don't like. And it's like, it's all the same. I was, you know, same but different. But like, that's why I like writing with electronics and orchestral. And I like, hopefully, you know, knock on wood, hopefully having the technical know-how to fucking, you know, do it well. Because everything can be valid, everything can be awesome, and everything can be shit. So I think it's more about whether the effort was actually made for that piece of music, no matter what cultural background it comes from, musical cultural background it comes from. Like, yeah, the onus is just on the music to be good, which is fucking completely and utterly opinionated as well. So,
and for the user to genuinely experience.
But the tribe, I can't stand the tribalism of it. It's like, oh, it's this, so it must be that. It's like, that's not how fucking reality works. Yeah. Things can be good and bad.
One of my big dreams is to, like, not tell anybody anything and just create a classical symphonic concert and include, like, Mozart, Verdi, you know, Requiem, whatever, and then just, like, stick, like, some fucking Monster Hunter or, like, you know, just like and people and people be like, oh my god, who are these composers, you know, throw in some, like, whatever, some Kevin Penkin Made in Abyss, and have someone be like, what the fuck, yeah, this is crazy, you know what I mean, like, and no one will know, because it's like, it's music, and it all belongs in the same. I don't hate because I think they're good because it gets people to the halls, but I do dislike this concept of, like, pops concerts that only focus on like a genre. Because why? You can't merge it with the classical one. Why? Because the donors are going to be upset. Who gives a shit? You know what I mean? Like, okay, yeah, money talks, but still, you're right.
Even better, combine any type of music with food. The best concert I ever went to, it was a chamber orchestra in my hometown of Perth. and they put on a Beethoven and Bratwurst concert. And so they paired like Beethoven with, sausage, and then they had Bartok, and they served like some borscht or something like that. I can't remember. But like they were like pairing like tracks.
Yeah.
They were pairing music with food, and that was epic. That was awesome. It was just like, because you're hitting every pleasure center of the brain.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's like hedonism at its finest. That's amazing.
Yep.
Well, Kevin, listen, I'll let you go, but I appreciate you, coming on. I hope I feel like we meandered, but hopefully the meandering was meaningful to you.
It's going to be what it's going to be.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just the way the conversation goes.
That's right. But that's good. I actually prefer it like that. And thank you everybody for watching. And, definitely, Kevin, you want to roll out the red carpet, how they do with the hot ones. What do you got going on in your life? What do you want to share, if anything?
Nah. I don't know.
That's fine.
Nah, all good.
All right. Kevin's got nothing to share. Definitely enjoy this episode, and we'll talk to you later. Bye. See you guys.